For 44 fierce years, Queen Elizabeth I ruled England like a storm, unyielding and untouchable. Known as Gloriana, the Virgin Queen, she stood like a force of nature against every threat. Powerful rulers, like Philip II of Spain, faced her wrath and saw their mighty armada shattered on English shores. She survived endless plots that would have crushed weaker leaders and changed the course of history forever. Yet beneath her powdered face and royal strength, Elizabeth carried a secret fear no one could imagine: the fate of her own body after death. In an age when embalming was a brutal, savage ritual, the Queen was terrified of what might become of her once she passed beyond life. Back then, preserving a corpse wasn't a gentle goodbye. Picture cold stone slabs, sharp knives, and the ruthless violation of sacred flesh. The body was cut open, organs ripped out without care, then stuffed with pungent spices like cloves, myrrh, and cinnamon. It was a desperate fight against the inevitable decay, a battle to hold back the stench and rot that no one could escape. Elizabeth begged her doctors to spare her body, to leave it whole, pure and untouched as she had lived, still a queen in death. But when her final breath came on March 24, 1603, her will could no longer protect her. The royal surgeons set to work with cold necessity. Blades tore deep into her flesh, her heart, the symbol of her courage, was removed. Every organ was taken out, the hollow spaces packed tightly with aromatic herbs. This gruesome ritual wasn't an honor, it was a grim necessity. Without it, her body would swell like a balloon, and the gases trapped inside her coffin could explode, disaster at a royal funeral no one wanted to witness. Wrapped in crimson velvet embroidered with Tudor roses, Elizabeth was laid to rest in a lead-lined coffin. The grand funeral procession flowed down the rivers, thousands mourning the Queen, yet hiding a terrible secret. The faint, sickly scent of death clung to the royal barge, a ghostly companion riding alongside England's Virgin Queen. The lead coffin barely held its dreadful secret. If it had burst open during the funeral, England would have faced an unspeakable horror, their beloved Gloriana exploding in a shower of rotting flesh right on the sacred river. But fate held back that nightmare, and Elizabeth was laid to rest in a grand tomb at Westminster Abbey. Yet even in death, her story was far from over. Nearly 300 years later, Victorian curiosity stirred beneath the Abbey's polished floors. Dean Arthur Stanley, granted permission by Queen Victoria herself, descended into the pitch-black, airless chambers where Elizabeth had lain forgotten. His lantern flickered against the cold stone, the air thick with the choking stench of centuries-old decay. What he found was horrifying beyond imagination. The once majestic coffin had collapsed. The wooden outer shell was nothing but dust. The rich crimson velvet was brittle scraps, and the lead lining, her final protection, had bent and twisted under the weight of time and what it contained. The stench was unbearable, a wet, ancient smell of rotting flesh that clung to the air like a curse. Carved faintly on the broken lid, Stanley could just make out the Tudor rose and the faded letters E.R., Elizabeth Regina, a whisper of former glory drowned in decay. But the true shock awaited just above, the crumbling remains of Mary I, Bloody Mary, Elizabeth's half-sister and fiercest rival. In life, they had torn England apart with religious wars and hatred. In death, they shared the same dark, airless vault, locked together in a silent embrace of rot. There was no peace in that tomb, only the crushing weight of centuries of decay and rivalry. Time had not softened their feud, it had swallowed them whole. While most buried long ago had turned to dust, Elizabeth's violent embalming had slowed the inevitable decay, but only barely. The lead coffin, once her last defense, was now grotesquely swollen and bulging from gases trapped inside, threatening to burst at any moment. The velvet that once wrapped her regal form had crumbled away, and the sturdy oak coffin was gone. Yet amidst the ruin, symbols of her defiance remained: the Tudor rose, her initials etched faintly on the corroded metal. But beneath the shattered coffin lay the brutal truth: the Queen's body had surrendered to nature's cruel work. Only broken bones, rotted flesh, and the final remnants of time's slow decay remained. It was at that chilling moment that Arthur Stanley did what 3 centuries of silence could not. He opened the stinking coffin of Elizabeth I. And what he saw was far from the glorious Virgin Queen remembered in books and portraits. Instead, he was met with a gruesome, heartbreaking reminder of death's ultimate power. The cold underground air carried one last royal scent, the overpowering, bitter smell of centuries of unstoppable rot. Today, tourists stroll over Westminster Abbey's gleaming floors, admiring statues and monuments, completely unaware of the horrors lying just beneath their feet. They breathe clean air, free from the deadly gases that once seeped from the tomb. Choirs sing overhead, masking the silence of that black vault. Elizabeth's grand tomb remains a symbol of power, but beneath its polished surface lies a terrifying truth, a fragile, misshapen coffin rotting away in silence. No crown, no empire, no legend can shield even the greatest ruler from death's relentless grip. Flesh decays, lead bends, velvet turns to dust. Queens and paupers alike are swallowed by time's unforgiving march. Even the mightiest empires become nothing more than a feast for worms. Elizabeth, who once ruled oceans and outwitted kings and assassins, now lies in a silent, crumbling vault. Her body reduced to fragile bones and decaying remnants, surrendered to nature's final monarch, time. Her legacy endures in books, paintings, and stories, but the flesh that bore the weight of a crown has long been claimed by decay. This chilling truth reminds us all, no matter how powerful, none can escape death's reign. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments, and share your video suggestions.